Howdy fellas, today we're going to do some Seraphon list building. The book's been out for about a week now, so we've had plenty of time to think about it. And I wanted to maybe do a couple videos about some different list options we have, what's good, what's bad, and maybe we can find the secret sauce for this book. The first list I wanted to look at was your typical Thunderquake. So you've got the same models that you ran Thunderquake with last time in the previous book. So you've got your Engine of the Gods and 2 Bastiladons. That was your typical Thunderquake list. And so let's see if that is still viable today. A couple rundown real quick on some of the things that make the Seraphon new allegiance abilities work. We do have the Slon's spell changing, returning to this book, so we're going to be doing that. We can change that spell at the end of the hero phase, and so that's always good to pick out different spells. We do get 3 different buffs that we can choose from in this army, and these come free, so it's kind of nice. We used to have to roll for these, but now we can just pick them as we need. The Hunter Steed adds 1 to run and charge rolls for Seraphon. This is actually really good in Thunderquake because you can get Thunderquake to run and shoot. So we get an extra run there if we want to, or if we're going to run and charge, we get an extra 1 inch to that run and charge. So you get an extra 2 inches there. So that's a pretty good one. That is army wide. So that one is one of the better options, I think, to choose. It's kind of all-purpose, all-around good buff, but we'll be using that a lot in Thunderquake. The other one is Great Drake. We add 1 to the hero's melee attacks. I do like this one. I like putting this one on the Engine of the God if he's stuck in combat. So if you've got your Engine of the God into combat, which now he's kind of a good combat monster, not so much a support monster like he used to be, that one's a good one to pop onto him as needed. The Sage's Staff is pretty good too in this list. You know, all 3 of these are good. I like all 3 of these. This one's add 1 to casting, unbinding, and dispelling for a hero. And you can change this in the different hero phases, even in your opponent's hero phase if you need to. But this is a great one to throw onto Kroak or the Slon, whichever one you're taking, to give them an extra +1 to cast and unbind. And then you got the bound endless spells. That won't be too relevant in this list. We're not going to take too many endless spells in this list. The alliance that we're going to go with, the alignment, is we're going to do Coalesced, and that gives us the +1 to the Jaws. Won't be too relevant in this list. It'll help a little bit. It'll help with the engine. But if we're taking a traditional Thunderquake, then we don't have too many jaw attacks. The Scaly Skin. Now this one is good. I really like this ability. This is one of my favorite abilities for the new Seraphon. And it's subtract 1 from the damage inflicted to a minimum of 1. So those elite units that are attacking you, now all of a sudden are basically getting their damage halved if they're doing 2 damage. Spells are coming in and taking 1 off of that. Shooting takes 1 off of that. Now all of a sudden those long strike snipers aren't nearly as scary as they were before. So this one is really good. Works for everybody. Even your, Skink Battleline get this kind of thing where they reduce the damage by 1. So that's really good. Also, these other 2 ones are kind of strange. Medieval, Primeval Domain. I don't really use terrain effects all that often, so use as needed. You ignore the negative ones on your half of the table. Cold-blooded. This ignore bravery modifiers, and I have half of your table. That's not true. It's just ignore bravery modifiers. In fact, this is it gets a little weird because this also, as far as I know, this is also going to affect positive modifiers. So if you have a horde bonus, you're not going to get that because that's a bravery modifier. Kind of interesting. So, and I'm going to take Thunder Lizards for Thunderquake because we get an extra 2 wounds to our different monsters, and at the end of the shooting phase we can pick any of our 3 monsters to basically activate again at the end of the shooting phase. Stegadons can also count as Battleline, but we're not going to take Stegadons in a traditional Thunderquake list. So that's kind of just a rundown of our allegiance abilities real quick. Let's look at the list. So here's our heroes. We are taking Thunderquake Temple-host. That's one of the battalions. It includes Engine of the Gods and 2 Bastiladons is what we're going to include for the traditional Thunderquake. I am putting Kroak in here instead of Slann. I think Kroak is just all around a better Slann, since you don't need the Slann as your general anymore, and you're not going to be summoning from him. I would take the better Kroak. He's only 60 points more, and he has a 4-up aftershave and an extra spell and better native spells on his War Scroll. So I think he's just all around better. So we are going to take Kroak in this. We're going to give him the Stellar Tempest spell just in case we have some hordes we got to deal with first. I like to have that one because you can actually reach out and touch the other person's lines turn 1 with that spell. Engine of the Gods, I'm actually making my general. In Thunderquake, we have a couple of things that are quite useful. And one is the command trait. So that command trait, Prime Warbeast, adds 1 to the attacks of the mount. And so these Stegadons have some pretty good mount attacks. And when you just look at the War Scroll, they don't look all that impressive, but you can just keep stacking these attacks on top of each other. So Prime Warbeast gives you other additional attacks to that. Your Jaws for Coalesce give you an extra attack to its Jaws. And then if you pop that Hunter Steed, or whichever one, the let's see, it's this one, the Great Drake. If you pop that onto the hero also, onto that engine, all of a sudden he's got another attack for all his melee attacks. So you can get those up pretty high. Engine of the God isn't bad in melee now. You know, it's about the same as the Stegadon Chief, but he's got that Engine of the Gods on his back to do a couple of different tricks with. So it does have some fun stuff to do there. So my other heroes I'm taking are the Astrolith Bear, and I'm gonna get. Hold on, phone call. Okay, got my phone turned off. So I'm taking the Saurus Astrolith Bear, and we've got to give one of our heroes this Fusil of Conflagration. That's the Thunderquake Temple-host artifact. It's not good. I mean, it has a chance to do something. So in the shooting phase, you pick an enemy unit within like 12, I think. And on a 1, the artifact destroys itself. Why would they make it? Why would they make a required artifact that can destroy itself? Okay, whatever. On a 2 or 3, it does nothing. All right. On a 4 or 5, it does 1 mortal. No, D3 mortals. And then on a 6, it does D6. So in theory, hey, I'm spitting out D6 mortals at range. But in reality, 50% of the time, it's not going to do anything, or it's going to destroy itself. So I'm just dumping that on him just to give somebody that artifact. But the bear, he's gonna tag along with Kroak because he extends Kroak 6 inches for the spell, and he gives him the +1 to cast and an extra 6-up after save. So if you want to make Kroak even tougher, well, there you go. But really, we're just there for the extra range on his spells. My Skink Starpriest, I'm taking him just because I love that little stick that he has. He can point it at somebody and give them an extra buff, where all wound rolls of 6 do a mortal in addition to the extra damage. It's not going to be real critical in this roll, but if you ran traditional Thunderquake, you probably already had this guy anyway. And this list isn't looking that much different than a traditional Thunderquake. So I'm giving him the spell Tide of Serpents. So we have 2 different spells that we can deal with hordes, which I think is probably the weak point of this army. So from turn 1, you have 2 different spells that you can use on hordes. I think that's pretty good. Your Skink is also going to be kind of the spell portal. So since he's a wizard, you want him 12 inches in front of Kroak, by turn 2. And that way Kroak can tunnel his spells through him to give him extra range. We'll look at our battle line options now. So I'm taking 5 Saurus Guard. You probably got 5 Saurus Guards sitting around from back when Kroak NATO used to be good. So pop 5 Saurus Guard in here. It's only 100 points. It doesn't sound like it has a lot of synergy in the list, and they're not very good on their own anymore, the Saurus Guard. You can't get them to crazy saves or anything. But that's 10 wounds that can be taken from Kroak. So now Saurus Guard on a 2-up can take a wound that Kroak would have gotten. So I love this just to make Kroak as tough as possible. He's going to be dealing out a lot of damage from range, so we're going to try to make him extremely tough. So Kroak with these guard with the banner, and then his natural saves is going to have a 4-up, a 4-up, a 6-up, and then a 2-up pass off to the Saurus Guard, who will have a 6-up. So you got a lot of saves, you got a lot of gates to get through to get those wounds actually onto Kroak, and then if you need to, just heal Kroak back up. So that's the plan there. We do have 3 units of Skinks to fill in our battle line. Skinks aren't very good now. Well, they aren't quite as useful now. They have a little bit different tricks. If you can get them up over 20, you'll be doing double shots. They're decent in a couple of different lists for like skirmishing real hard, shooting, hitting, then running. But in this list, they're just filling out bodies. We need bodies. And Skinks fit the bill. They do have a 5-up save the way everyone has them kitted out, which is Boltspitters and shields. They do get this dagger new attack for the daggers, but it's still the old. I think it's 5 and 5s in combat now, so slightly better. It used to be like 5s and 6s or something. And then we're going to max out that Razordon hunting pack just because you've probably got Razordons because you ran Thunderquake. So we're going to put the Razordons in there. They actually have some pretty good tricks now. They're doing the same amount of damage. They cost a little bit more, but they come with handlers, which are basically just wound sinks. So when you get damaged, just put the wounds off onto those handlers first. You will have to kind of worry about some bravery on them because they might run if you remove too many handlers. But definitely take off those handlers because the handlers literally do nothing now. They're just wounds to take off. But in Thunderquake, if you flip Thunderquake to the run and charge and shoot turn 1, these guys have some incredible range. So they move 10, they shoot 18, and then let's run them, max run them for an extra 6. So now, if I can do the math quickly in my head, you're 34-inch range. So that's pretty awesome. And if you can run and charge them, they have a trick where their overwatch happens in both charge phases. So my charge phase or your charge phase. So I like the idea of this is kind of my alpha strike here. I'm going to pick a soft unit that doesn't have a great save, probably just some screens if they're putting up screens or some support heroes. Rush this forward with run and charge and shoot. Shoot, that'll be 6d6 shots, and then charge, and then you'll get to shoot again in the charge phase. You only get half the shots on the charge phase. And then they're not too shabby in combat. They have some decent attacks. They're not nearly as good as salamanders, but let's be honest, you don't have salamanders. Nobody has salamanders. Although more will now. Salamanders are much better. If you do have salamanders, definitely put them into this list because salamanders are better. They do lots of mortal wounds. They don't have the overwatch and tricks like that, but they are much better in combat and much better shooting. So those are my units there. We do have our monsters, our Bastiladons with the solar engines. I don't see a case where you'd ever take the snakes anymore. They kind of nerf those down pretty hard. So it's always going to be solar engine. The Bastiladons do have that interesting 1-up save, so we are kind of waiting for an FAQ just to clarify that. There's a lot of internet debate about what a 1-up save even means. I think if you read it exactly how the rules say, until somebody puts 3 wounds on them, only natural ones to roll will do a wound. So it's pretty easy to get around. Just do some mortal wounds onto them. They have no mortal wound save, and you'll be able to get through that 1-up save pretty quickly, especially if you have some rend. But to start off, if you can throw those things into a horde that doesn't have any rend, you're probably going to be pretty good for a little while, especially if you can heal them up via the Engine of the Gods or one of your spells. So that's the list. We've got our traditional Thunderquake. It's now called the Thunderquake Temple-host, used in most of the models that you probably already have if you ran Thunderquake before. I don't think it's probably the best optimized list for the new Seraphon, but it's not too bad from what you've got. I want to look at what does the deployment kind of look like. If I were to run this, what would my deployment look like? So, if we're saying the line is about here, where we're lining up, And let's just do a standard like battle for the pass. I think that's usually a pretty good objective, a pretty good practice game to try out your deployment on, because you've got multiple objectives. You got one you got to hold, and you got one you got to attack. So I think if I'm going first, I'm getting Skinks onto these objectives, and I'm probably pushing forward pretty hard with my core unit here, and then leaving Kroak and company back on my objective. I do like having Kroak bunkered with the guard, maybe a couple units of Skinks, and pop out Balewind. Use the range extension from the Astrolith bearer, and you should be able to get 22 inches for his spells turn 1, and that's pretty good. It's not going to hit the enemy on this turn. That's fine. We're playing that for the longer game. So turn 1, he's probably going to be doing some buffs what he can. He'll do his casting comet, and the horde spell if there's a horde, which there will be in range, especially if you're adding 12 inches to it. So he's going to do his comet, Balewind, Stellar Tempest, and then something else, whatever you want with the other one. He's got 4 spells. So Mystic Shield, maybe onto your Stegadon, or put it onto one of the Bastiladons so that even those natural ones, they can re-roll those. I'm probably sending 1 unit of Skinks to grab one of these, or sending my bubble of the engine and the Bastiladons over there. So if you can bunker this with Kroak, get your Thunderquake on 1, and then maybe send your Razordons to prep pressure, capture that with Skinks. You'll be up 1, hold the other 2, and put pressure on their objective. I think that would be a good plan. But you do want to run the engine with the Bastiladons, because the engine, if he's not within range of the Slann, is probably going to be healing. Statistically, it's more likely for him to do the heals, which is what the Bastiladons need. So if you can throw those Bastiladons into something to just tie them up and then heal them via the spells and via the engine, you should be in pretty good shape there. You do have a mortal wound problem if you have a lot of mortal wounds coming at you. Of course, that'll give problems to just about anybody. But those Bastiladons will fall pretty quick to mortal wounds, which bracket down their save real hard. So you kind of have an alpha if you want it from the Thunderquake. You can rush the Razordons up quick and get all the way into their lines, make them have to deal with those guys, and send your bunker over to one objective, and then get Kroak to be casting his spells from your home objective. I think that's what my deployment would be. I didn't address the pyramid, the Realm Shipper engine, because let's be honest, it's terrible. Until they FAQ it, there's no reason to include it anywhere. Because let's pretend you decide I'm going to put it right here because I want it in my home objective, and then you lose the roll off, and the enemy gets this side, and now you've just given them a garrisonable terrain piece. Thanks, GW. If you put it here in the middle, which might be a good idea, now it's blocking, your alpha charge, so that's not a good idea. You could put it over here, near this objective, if theoretically, if you knew where the objective was going to come down, which you wouldn't because you put this down before any of the other terrain piece. You might get it, or your enemy might get it. So they need to fix that to where it goes down in your terrain, or in your side of the board. So anyway, that's my idea for the traditional Thunderquake Temple-host, using the models you already have. So that's it for today. That's our list for today. If you want another list, if you want to run some ideas or want a video on another one, let me know. See ya.